One thing about it, and two things for sure, is that you can be clear about what God told you to do on Monday, but by end of day Tuesday, girl, you are already tempted to do something else. One of the most confusing parts about building something online is that technically, everything really works. TikTok works, YouTube works, course works, coaching works, a community works. I mean, literally anything that you can think of works. But the question isn't what works. It's what works for you. I have been building online for the last 3 years, girl. And I've tried enough of what works to learn what actually holds up long term. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 things that I would be doing differently if I was starting over in 2026. My hope is that by the end of this episode, you'll start building in a way that works for you. And if, like me, you've already started doing all the things under the sun, I hope that this episode gives you permission to start over even now. Welcome to CalledGirls.com. Okay, Bookie, we're going to just dive right into it. Tip number 1, okay? The first thing that I would do differently is that I would choose the path that fits how God designed me, okay? That's the advice. Choose a path that fits the way that God has designed you. Before I pick a platform or choose the type of business model that I want to build, I would get super duper clear on how God has specifically wired me, okay? One of the most confusing things about building online is that so many things work. Like I said in the very beginning, right? You can build with short form content. You can build with long form content on platforms like YouTube and with a blog or using Substack or starting a podcast. You can launch as many courses as you want to. You can launch coaching services, right? You can actually launch services where you're doing work for people. You can build out the communities. You can be on as many social platforms as you want to be. You can start sending out emails and newsletters week by week or more than one time per week, right? You can host live events. There are just so many things that you can do. And because it all works for someone, right? It's successful and it works for someone else. It's easy to assume that it should work the same way for you too. When in reality, that's just not the case, right? The Bible actually really teaches us something different and something that I think that we as Christian creators and entrepreneurs really need to take into consideration when we are pursuing online anything, when we're pursuing content creation online, when we're pursuing online business or whatever the case may be. We need to consider the fact that the Word of God gives us clear direction and guidance for a lot of the things that we're trying to do. So Romans chapter 12 tells us that in His grace, right? This is a grace. God has given us different gifts for doing certain things well. Now, God has literally designed us with different wiring, different capacities, right? Different callings. So when you try to build online in a way that doesn't actually fit the way that you've been designed, of course, it's going to feel hard. Of course, it's going to be off. Of course, certain things are not going to work long term for you because you are building outside of the way you are naturally wired to build, okay? When you do this, you start forcing yourself to show up in formats that actually drain you more than that they uplift you. In a way that I used to do that was like trying to overdo short form content. When naturally I'm a yapper, I'm a shower, and I'm a teller. I like to literally talk with my hands. I like all of this, right? Video content is my element, but short form video content is not really the big thing that I love to do, okay? And so naturally showing up on Instagram and TikTok, it was a bit inconsistent in the way that I was showing up because of the amount of content that you had to produce to remain relevant on the platform. Whereas if I buckled down on YouTube from day one, I don't think I would have had an issue with consistency because I would put that much energy, the amount of energy that I was putting into 3 to 7 pieces of content per week for Instagram could have been put into one solid piece of YouTube content one time per week. You know what I'm saying? And the only reason I know this is because I'm going based off of the way that I've naturally been designed and the way that I'm naturally wired, right? When you go against your design, you start trying to sell your products and your services and all of the things in a way that doesn't even really feel honest. It's not really in alignment with how you are. You start adopting rhythms that you can't even really sustain. Like, you say that you're going to show up this amount of times, right? But you can't really actually sustain that because you don't have the capacity. That's not your natural capacity to do those things. And then I think the worst part in all of this is that you start measuring success by standards that don't even reflect what you've been called to do. There's nothing worse than trying to grade yourself for something that was not even an assignment to begin with. You turn in an assignment to your professor or your teacher, and they're just looking at you like, what is this? No, you do not get a grade for this because I did not ask you to do this thing. That's literally what it is like when you are going against your natural design for whatever it is that you're building in the online space. And then you wonder why you're inconsistent. Girl, listen, the best way to build online is in a way that actually aligns with the gifts that God has given you. Okay? Identify your gifts. And if you don't know what your spiritual gift is, especially the ones that are listed inside of Romans chapter 12, go to the description box below and maybe I'll link it in the first comment of this video. But grab this assessment that I put together that asks you a series of about 50 questions or so, very simple questions, and you literally measure yourself out of a scale of 1 to 5 to determine what actually sounds more like you. And whatever you're scoring, that you score the highest will point you to the gift that you've been given. So if you don't know what that is, definitely go to the description box below to grab that. But build online with the gift that you've been given, because it is a gift that you have been given for doing certain things well. Okay? And that's a promise. If we really believe what the Bible says, we should believe what that says too. You need to build online in a way that fits your personality and the energy that you naturally have, okay? Nothing is more uncomfortable than trying to fake it till you make it, okay? I have been queen fake it till you make it for I don't know how long, in not just my business, but in just certain areas of life as a whole. And it is the fastest way to crashing and burning. It is the fastest way to making anxiety a friend. It is the fastest way to making an enemy of your nervous system, because you're not doing things in a way that fit the way that you are. When you're faking it till you make it, you're not being genuine and authentic to you. So make sure that you're building in a way that fits your personality and your energy. Build online in a way that honors your real life capacity. I'm a wife. I'm not a mom yet. So there are certain things that I can do that maybe a mom and a wife cannot do. There are certain things that a woman in her single season, she has a lot of capacity to do so many different things. And just speaking generally, you probably have a 9-to-5 job. As women, we can't do what men be doing. I know that the girls love to tussle and say that they can do it, but girl, I don't want to. I don't want to be a man, and I don't want to run anything that I'm doing with the energy of a man. So why should you, right? Honor the actual capacity that you have and build online in a way that actually allows you to serve people naturally, right? So if there's anything that I would do differently if I was starting over in 2026, I would 100% start with learning what my spiritual gifts are, and then I would learn how to operate in those gifts uniquely and allow those things, those elements to guide the way that I build online. Okay? All right. Now, the second thing that I would do differently, girl, is that I would build systems that actually create consistency for me. Notice, girl, I am really honing in on what works for you, okay? I would not rely on motivation alone because motivation is fleeting, okay? I build systems that really carry me through, especially when I am tired, when I might be feeling overwhelmed, when I might be busy in certain seasons. I need a system that works regardless of my mood, right? So most of the time, most of us think that our inconsistency is a motivation problem. Like we lack motivation. Like I'm not motivated enough. Let me go listen to this motivational playlist on Spotify or on YouTube or whatever to encourage me to get up and go and do the thing. We assume things like, oh, if I just wanted this more, I would do it. If I were more disciplined, I would have been successful by now. If I stopped procrastinating, da 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 da. And while there is some truth to all of these things in all of these areas, after 3 years of doing business online, what I have learned is that motivation is emotional and consistency is more structural, okay? Motivation, relying on the motivation depends on what you feel in that moment, while systems already decide in advance what happens even when you don't really feel like doing those things, right? When you rely on motivation, you only show up when you're feeling inspired or when life feels very calm or you're feeling confident or nothing else is pulling on you. And that's why so many of us very capable girls, right, start strong, but ultimately we end up disappearing along the way because everything is just based off of emotion. A system removes the decision making from the moment and it answers the questions before you start to ask them, right? Because you know how we go when it's time for us to create content. We're like, what am I creating today? Oop. You know what? I don't even need to ask that question because I could just look into my idea bank. Oh, where am I posting? Oh, you don't need to know that because you know that your primary platform is YouTube. How often do I need to post? Baby girl, I know that I'm supposed to be posting 1 time a week in this season, okay? What format do I post in? Oop, girl, I'm a yapper. So I'm gonna just yap. I'm just gonna yap, right? What does done look like for me with this particular thing, right? 1 take, lightly edited YouTube video with a cutesy thumbnail that works for the visual elements of my brand, okay? Listen, when you have a system in place, when you have certain systems, and this is something that I like to call it like your brand world system, when you have a system in place, you do not have to constantly be asking yourself, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? I actually have a video that's going to be coming out very soon where I talk a lot about decision fatigue and how decision fatigue is one of the things that really prevents us from taking action a lot of the time. And I feel like this really fits right here into this particular section or this particular thing that I would do differently. When you have a system in place, it prevents you being fatigued by the amount of decisions that you have to make on a day-to-day basis. Every single day, we are constantly making decisions. You do not want to create any more resistance, especially when you are trying to build something online. Do you see how I did not even have to think about those questions, right? I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. Oh, no, I don't have to even worry about that because I already know that this is what I'm supposed to do, right? Without a system in place, everything becomes a brand new decision that you have to make in the moment. And decision fatigue is the #1 killer of consistency. Okay. We can't rely on our motivation because our motivation, first of all, is dwindling. We're not going to always be motivated. And honestly, we're only motivated oftentimes, I want to say 90% of the time, we're motivated when we first get the initial idea to do the thing. That's when we're most motivated, or when we're in a moment of inspiration and we're writing the content, right? My husband actually told me yesterday because I was scripting out a few videos, right? And I was like, babe, I scripted out 4 videos today. He was like, good job, honey. Now you have to record it. Now you have to actually show up and record it because it's one thing to script. It is another to show up and record. And to be honest, this morning I could have easily said, you know what, I'm not in the mood to record today. I was feeling a lot of resistance for the day in general. Like I was feeling a lot of resistance to feeling like I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing in all of these things. But guess what? I have a system in place. I have a planner that literally tells me, oh, this is a day that is dedicated to filming a YouTube video. There's nothing else that is a priority in business for me today other than my YouTube video. Okay, listen, if I were to do something different this year in 2026, one of the biggest things is that I would build a brand system early, right? Not like consume a bunch of strategies or have 1,000,001 little tactics. I would have a few very clear anchors to build my brand and be successful in building my brand. For one, I would get a very clear vision of where my brand is going and where I'm trying to go with this brand, what I'm trying to do with this particular brand, so that I'm not reinventing my direction every month, or I'm not changing my mind every single month. The second thing that I would do as far as systems go is that I would define what my voice is. What am I saying? Who am I saying it to? Why am I saying it? Why does it matter? What are the specific things that I want to say, right? And how does that connect with the person that I'm trying to reach? How do I want to actually sound when I'm saying these particular things, right? Define your voice, because when you can define your voice and you have a system for your voice, like literally all you have to do is open up a document and you can literally run through and read, and it tells you exactly who you are, what you do, who you serve, how you serve them, all the things. You're not going to be second guessing yourself every time you show up to create the content. I would also be intentional about creating a cohesive visual style so that everything that I create online feels very connected. You can literally go on my page. You can see that I have specific brand colors and I choose very specific fonts, right? I have this pink going on and I have this purplish brown, this very deep grayish purplish brown that I use as part of my brand colors. I have various shades of pinks and things like that. I like to use like grid, like a grid whenever I'm popping something up on the screen, or I like to use it for the banner on my page. My icon is a cloud because that's just the vibe for Call Girl. Okay, like I have a very cohesive visual style, so I don't have to figure out, okay, what color do I want to make this, or what font should I use here, or what should I do there. There's no decision that needs to be made because that is literally all established. But not only that, it ensures that how I show up online feels very cohesive in general. When people see these brand elements and these brand colors and this particular style, they already know, oh, this is Call Girls. You know what I'm saying? And you want to create that same type of system for yourself. The other thing that I would do is build a visibility system that fits into my real life and not what other people on the internet are telling you to do. There are people who will tell you you need to post on YouTube every single day. Okay? It doesn't matter if it's edited. It doesn't matter if it's this. It doesn't matter if it's that. Just show up and create every single day. There are other people who tell you that you need to show up and post on Instagram every single day. There are some people who say that you should post on YouTube every single day. Some people tell you to post on YouTube one time a week. Some people tell you to post on Instagram and all the other social media platforms more than one time a day. Like there's so much advice out there on the frequency of your visibility online, but you cannot make a decision based off of what they're telling you works. Okay? Because at the end of the day, girl, you have to do what works for who? You. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. You got to do what works for you, what works for your real life capacity. For me, that looks like one video a week on YouTube. Literally, my goal for 2026 is to push out a video every single week for the rest of this year. The only month that I'm considering to take off is either November or December because it's my anniversary month and plus holidays and all of these types of things. And plus, girl, we need a break. We also need a break. But the goal is one time a week. I'm not trying to go above that, and I'm not going to do less than that because I actually have the capacity to show up one time per week. So really take that into consideration. And another part of that is like, I do want to post short form pieces of content, but I want to create content that is centered around the video, the long form YouTube video that I created, right? I don't want my short form pieces of content to feel disconnected from the message that I have for you for the week. I want everything, every platform that I'm on to feel very cohesive. And guess what? I'm not posting a bunch of short form content a week. I'm not posting 7 times per week. You're going to get maybe 1 to 3 solid short form pieces of content out of me per week. If you get that one long form video, but no short form, I did my job. That is my visibility rhythm. If I give you one long form video and one short form or more, I excelled that week. You know what I'm saying? So know what your visibility rhythm looks like so that you could show up with your capacity in mind in a way that fits your life, right? And I think that the last system that I would put in place is knowing what my content strategy is so that I always know who I am talking to and what I am talking to them about. I'll actually show you this. You're probably not going to even be able to see it clearly at all. And maybe I'll just take a picture of it for you and put it on the screen, right? So this is just literally a notebook. There we go. Where I created a Venn diagram where on one side, it's all about who I want to speak to. And the other side is all about what I want to talk to them about. And for me, when it comes to YouTube, who I want to speak to is other Christian women who are creators and entrepreneurs. And what I really want to talk to you about, girl, is knowing God in your real life and making him known online, creating and building things with him in mind. Okay. Those are the things that I really, really want to talk to you about. Hence this particular video, right? And so a great strategy that you can use when it comes to like determining what your content strategy needs to be is identifying these two things, and in the overlap is defining, listing out literally the problems that they may be struggling, that they're probably searching for, the desires that they have, the things that they want to accomplish that they might be searching for, but also what are the things that they need that they're actively searching for, right? That gives you a good idea of what your content strategy needs to be. And if you have an idea of what content types are, you literally just need to take one of those, like all the things that you listed out, take one and connect it to a content type or a content angle, whether that's like you want to tell your own personal story, or maybe you want to teach on that particular topic, or maybe you want to like literally show them what the problem is and give them a direct solution. Whatever that thing is for you, whatever the angle that you want to produce that piece of content, you have that in place, but it all stems from one central key thing of knowing who you're speaking to and what you're wanting to speak to them about. Okay. That is what creates consistency. These are the simple systems that you need to have in place to create consistency so that you're not depending on your inspiration or your motivation, and then you're wondering why that you're not showing up the way that you need to. All right. So last but not least, the third thing that I would do if I was starting over in 2026 is that, girl, I would expect resistance, because listen to me and listen to me clearly. The fight for your vision will not stop. It does not stop. It does not ever end, actually. Even when you have clarity about what you're wanting to do and where you're wanting to go with your brand, the fight doesn't stop. You're going to always be met with some form of resistance. And so what I like to personally do is reset my mind as often as I need. Okay. One of the lies that I believe very, very early on is that once I get clear, everything is going to just flow. Everything is going to be easy. Everything is going to be perfect, okay, for lack of better words, right? That once I knew what I was supposed to build, everything would just kind of click and come into place, and I would be on my P's and Q's. I'd be dotting my I's and crossing my T's. Everything would be chef's kiss. But clarity did not eliminate a darn thing, okay? Listen, the moment you choose a direction, you're gonna also become very aware of every other direction that you didn't choose, especially when you start seeing other people showing up in those ways. You'll be clear, obviously, because you know where you want to go and you know the things that you want to do, but you'll also always see somebody else growing faster. You'll still watch another strategy work for somebody else. you'll still kind of feel that urge to pivot when things are not going as fast as you would hope that they would go for you, which I think is very human. Okay, if you ask me, I think that it really reinforces exactly why as human beings we need Jesus. Clock it, just saying. But I really think that the real fight isn't about finding your vision, right? I think that it's very easy to find your vision. I feel like there are strategies, there are processes to finding your vision. The difficulty is fighting to protect it. Fighting to protect it from comparison, fighting to protect it from your impatience, fighting to protect that vision from the discouragement that you're going to feel along the way because everything doesn't go as fast and as quickly as you desire it to. You probably won't get the results that you were probably expecting, right? Protecting it from the pressure that you probably have internally to prove yourself or to prove something to people for whatever reason, right? The lie that it shouldn't be this hard if this is something that the Lord is calling me to do, right? You need to protect your vision from these things. And I think that this is the place where a lot of us quietly begin to give up, or this is where a lot of us start to hide and things like that, or we begin to distract ourselves, right? You know what your thing is, right? What you tend to do when things start to kind of like become overwhelming for you, right? Because the reality is we weren't really prepared for the maintenance that is required for the clarity that you have. You are not prepared for the maintenance. I'm going to say it again. You were not prepared for the maintenance that is required for the clarity that you have. If you want to keep that clarity, you must maintain it. So what I would personally do differently is build in regular mental resets as an ongoing practice. I would build it into my regularly scheduled programming in the sense of like, oh, because I know that by the end of the week, my energy is very, very, very low. I am really, really, really second guessing and not sure if this is what I'm supposed to do. That is the moment when the reset needs to happen, or at least a day before. That is when the reset needs to happen. If I know that on Mondays or even on Sundays, I get the Sunday blues, or I'm anxious about what Monday is going to be like, what it's going to look like, and all of these things, that is when I would go ahead and implement this reset method. These are moments where you can really begin to step back and check in with yourself. And I have a specific method that I particularly like to reset, and I created a whole entire playlist, plenty of videos, resources on the reset method that I particularly use. Either link it in the cards or put it in the description box below, but use that as a resource so that you can kind of find like a method for you to reset. But if you have something that will work for you, use that. The goal is for you to be able to step back and check in with yourself, right? Ask yourself, are you building with your gifts, or are you building from comparison? Are you really actually responding to God's assignment on your life, or are you just reacting based off of what's happening on the internet and what the internet is telling you, this is the way to win, this is what you need to do? Are you tired right now, or are you just being tempted to abandon what you committed to, right? When you step back and you check in with yourself, you can really ask yourself questions that get you to the root of the problem. But more than that, if you use the reset method, that the resource that I have, if you use that reset method, you'll find that not only are you kind of like examining the root of the issue, you'll also surrender this thing back to the Lord. You'll equip yourself with His word, and then you're going to take action on whatever the word told you to do. Because that's one thing that I love about the word. God's word is very practical. That is one of the things that makes it so transformational. Okay. It is practical and applicable to your life. So remember that in doing the reset method, the goal is for you to notice when you are comparing yourself, to take notice when you are acting out of impatience, to take notice when you're discouraged, girl, to take notice that you're trying to prove something to somebody right now, and that's why you're showing up the way that you're showing up. It is all about taking notice and paying attention and resetting your thinking and recommitting to the path that you already chose. It reminds me of Romans chapter 12, verse 2. I'm going to always reference Romans chapter 12, Buki. I'm sorry, but that is literally one of the scriptures that really anchored me in the last 3 years of my business. But Romans chapter 12, verse 2 tells us, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world. It says, instead, be transformed by renewing your mind. Another version says, let God transform you by changing the way that you think. Okay? And then it continues on in saying, and then you will be able to test and approve God's good, pleasing, and perfect will. Another version says, and then you will learn to know his good, pleasing, and perfect will, or his good will, which is perfect. I think that that is so essential as Christian creators and entrepreneurs, that as we're building online, we are constantly making sure that we are resetting and that we're getting back to the center, that we're getting back to our core, we're getting back to the Lord, right? That is why I feel like the reset method is so helpful, because it doesn't just have you sitting here looking back and exploring the deep depths of the problems or the issues that you might have, but they challenge you to renew your mind, to surrender it back to God, to equip yourself with the word and take action on what you read. Clarity is going to be one of those things that you're going to have to constantly return to. And you can 100% do that with a regularly scheduled mental reset. Okay? So girl, again, if I were starting over in 2026, I do 3 things differently. First of all, I would build on a path that fits how God has naturally designed me, okay? Secondly, I would build systems that create consistency in my life, okay? The systems that work best for me, but also I would have a brand system in place so that I can show up consistently and cohesively, okay? And the third thing that I would do is that I'd expect the resistance to come. I would expect the resistance to come, and I would reset my mind as it comes, but not just as it comes, on a regularly scheduled programming. It's like prevention, okay? It's to prevent the comparison, the bad habits that we have around building online. It's to prevent those things from reoccurring as frequently as they do. It is a preventative measure. So those are the 3 things that I would build into my life if I was starting my business over in 2026. Girl, our businesses, our brands, or whatever it is that we're building online don't fail. Those things do not fail because we lack the desire to pursue these things, or we lack the motivation to actually take action or anything like that. It fails ultimately when we build something that does not fit in the way that God designed us, in the way that God has made us. So I encourage you to build by design. Reinforce this design with systems that work for you, and reset your mind when the resistance comes. Okay? If you enjoyed this episode, let me know in the comment section down below, girl, what was your favorite part? What out of all of the 3 things that I would do differently do you think that you're gonna do differently this year? And if you need support with any of the things that I talked about in this video, you can go ahead and book a one-to-one brand clarity session with me. It'll be the comment that's pinned in the comment section down below, and I'll also make sure to link it in the description box as well. But if you know that you're in need of a brand clarity session, and you know you're trying to figure out, okay, what do I do for 2026? What is the direction that I want my business to go this year? Book your session with me, girl. And with that said, I love you with the love of Jesus, and I will definitely be seeing you in the next video. TTYL.